Finance can be messy, but don't worry. We clean it up with facts, fun, and maybe a little sarcasm. Welcome to the Financial Sandbox. Let's get into it. Today on my show, I have Morris Chub. And when we spoke about a week and a half ago, we had such a great conversation. I was out on a walk in Oakland, and we just had a great intro. So can you tell me a little about what you do, who you are, and just tell my audience just a little bit about you?
Sure. Well, my background, I started out as an accountant, CPA, did that for about 5 years, went into private industry, worked with venture-backed firms, was CFO of one NASDAQ-listed company, was treasurer of another. I've sold companies to Safeway. I've sold companies to J&J. I sold a company to a English conglomerate. I know a little bit about tax, a little bit about business and how financials work. I'm a detail-oriented guy. I tend to be risk adverse. And so my stance is a little bit on the conservative side. About 6 years ago, a guy approached me and said, do you know anything about installment sale trusts? And I said, zero. And so he brought me up to date on it, figured out that it would be a good strategy for people who own companies who wanted to sell them, wanted to replace the income from the company with residual income in retirement. And so learned a lot about 453, which is the IRS code behind installment sales and how they can help. They are one of a bunch of approaches. 1031s are another approach for preserving wealth. And so,
so what's the basics of an installment sale? Tell us in just layman's terms, what does that mean when someone says, I'm going to do an installment sale, or someone says, I'm going to do a seller carry I'm selling an apartment building and I'm going to carry the note for the buyer. What are those different? Are they the same thing?
They can be the same thing if the seller decides to not. In other words, the default is to have a seller carryback be an installment sale. All you have to do is not receive some of the principal of the sale in the year of the sale to have an installment sale. The benefit of that is you only pay tax on the principal from the sale that you receive in any 1 year. So if you can receive payments over 20 years, you're paying tax on 1/20th or some fraction thereof of the sale in any 1 year, and you can save a lot of taxes.
So as you know, we talked about, I do a lot of 1031 exchange work. So I work with a lot of longtime owners that are tired of the toilets, tenants, and trash, right? So they want out. And a lot of times I work with them and move income into what's called a Delaware statutory trust. So they will buy a percentage equity of a larger portfolio and get income annually. So what's the difference between doing a 1031 exchange and then doing an installment sale? Break that down for me.
I don't know the whole world of DSTs. I do know that I've had people come to me and say, listen, I am tired of the returns that they're giving me. I'm tired of the inflexibility of the vehicle. And I don't want to do DSTs any longer. DSTs are REITs, but they're REITs with a lot of restrictions in order to comply with the IRS definition of being a DST.
Sure.
And as a result, the returns are not great. people tend to like the returns that we give them. We're my cat. Sorry about my cat. He wants to get
The
out.
cat has a little bit to say about this. So,
Yeah.
So we're talking about the difference in the return in an installment sale and a Delaware statutory trust. They're different. The installment sale seems to have a higher cash flow, but there's a really different way to sort of put an installment sale together, right? It's a process, and there could be mistakes made.
Well, yes, that's right. There are ways of doing it, and that's why you need somebody who knows the code, who is conservative, who is looking out for the seller, and that's what I tend to do. I used to work with a guy. In fact, I still do work with a guy. I do work for him. But what he wants to do is he wants to control the AUM. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, except when you approve of a deal with him, you basically approve one, I'm going to do an installment sale and what that means to me. And two, you approve him as the investment advisor.
And that AUM, for people who don't know, is assets under management.
Correct. I apologize. I'll try not to use acronyms.
That's all right. I do it all the time with people and try to explain the acronyms as we go through.
Excellent. So excellent. Yeah. So I have no axe to burn. I have no dog in the fight, if you will, with regard to investments. So what I tell my sellers is, let's do an installment sale, and you tell me who you'd like to use as an investment advisor. Now, what I tell them also is that it can be somebody that you've worked with in the past. My preference is not. I don't know how nasty the IRS can be in the future, but if you have a relationship with an investment advisor and you start using them in an installment sale, the IRS may say you have too much control over that investment advisor. You have control. Control means taxability. Taxability means you no longer have an installment sale.
Oh,
excuse me, not taxability, but constructive receipt.
Right.
So constructive receipt is the word of the day. That's what an installment sale prevents you from having. I manage the trust. I own the trust. I do it on your behalf. You tell me the investment advisor, and then you tell me the type of investments you want, and I will communicate that with the investment advisor, and we'll collaborate to get the types of things you want in the investment portfolio.
So is it generally done in the sale of businesses, or is it real estate? How are installment sales? Is there a bent in terms of one or the other, or is it both?
It's that and more.
Okay.
Well, let's say you own stock in a privately held company, not a publicly held, a privately held, or you have a private issuance of stock in a public company, or you own your own home in Northern California, Herb. The value of homes are astronomical.
Yeah.
So there's a guy up in Napa. He's the first deal I ever closed. His home was on a vineyard, and he was going to make $5 million in his deal. And I told him, well, you can get a residual income from the net of that. And, I don't know how much money you think you can make from, let's say, arguably $3.5 million. Or you can have the full $5 million work for you, and I'll pay you 6%. So the difference between 6% of the net and the 6% of the gross is $100,000.
Yeah, it's dramatic. Yeah,
it's dramatic. So, what can you do with an extra $100,000? You can figure a lot of things. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, and the investment vehicles that you would use or that we would use would be identical because you have control of where that money goes and who's managing those investments.
Right.
The cost to you really is me, and depending upon the size of the trust, it runs from 1% down to, I'm down to 25 basis points on the last million of a $5 million deal. So it's a fast declining charge, and you get the difference.
How long does it take to set this up? Because what are the steps? You're gonna set up a separate trust or an LLC, or how do you set up the income component for the investor?
It is a trust. It takes about 2 weeks to do the mechanics of it.
Mm-hmm.
But what my recommendation is if you think this might be a route for you to go, talk to me well in advance of the transaction. The reason I say that is because I don't want you worrying about, gee, what's an installment sale? How's that investment going to be? Who am I going to use when you're in the midst of closing that deal?
Yeah. You
don't want that complication. Yeah. You want to say, okay, I know where the money's how I'm going to deal with the gain. Now I can go sell it. So my recommendation is come to me 2 months, 3 months in advance. It may take 30 days for us to work through getting you to understand how the vehicle works and how, and what it can do for you. And it may or may not be what you want, but at least give yourself the opportunity of exploring it without being challenged at the same time of closing a deal.
So who comes to you when these transactions is it the realtor? Is it the investor, the business owner? How does someone find you and start this process?
I'd like to say I've got big neon signs, and you recognize me by the picture on the bus bench.
And Fong, right?
But I'm not that popular, and frankly, I don't want to be waving a flag. As compliant as what we do is, I don't want to be waving a flag.
Yeah.
And announcing what we do. I'd rather stay below the radar of the IRS. It's a lot nicer to not have to deal with some of their challenges. Although I firmly believe that what we do is, as one attorney that I work with says, I want you higher up in the tree than anyone else, further out of the reach of the IRS.
Right.
And that's when I say, I'd rather you work with an investment advisor for your IST that you've not worked with before. There's certain things I'll say I'd rather, certain things I get to be I am a little stronger in recommendations. It's also that should this ever be looked at, and you have to recognize that the IRS, typically looks at only 3 or 4% of all tax returns.
Right.
So, but we don't want to be, we don't want to be caught.
That 3%.
And if we're caught, then it opens up more things. So we want to be compliant in all ways.
So where's the regulatory side of your business? For example, I have several licenses, Series 7, et cetera, that allow me to do what I do. Where is your licensing, and what's the regulatory constraints or benefits?
There are none.
There are none.
There are none. Okay. Yeah. I mean, the trusts are mine. Mm-hmm. They're not publicly traded. Each one of them is a standalone. I am an ex-CPA. I mean, that's my licensure, if you will. Mm-hmm. I can point you to all the regulations and and all the literature that the IRS has put out. And I can point you to, how the IRS has dealt with strategies that they come to say, oh, we don't like this anymore. So that can happen. That can happen any day, because
Sure.
we're working with interpretations of the code.
Mm-hmm.
But the IRS has never prevailed in changing how they interpret a regulation and going back to things that have happened before that interpretation changed.
Mm-hmm.
It's only looking forward that they can change that perspective. And so we're very confident in the deals that we've closed, because the interpretation right now is with us.
Right. So how many deals do you do a year, and how long does it take you to put each one together, and what kind of time management do you spend on each deal a year? Do you talk to the client annually? Do you talk to them every 6 months? What's that like?
So to start with, I do anywhere from 4 to 6 transactions a year.
Oh, okay.
I'm as I said, I want somebody who I can work with. So I mean, it is a two-way street.
Right.
I am currently spinning off one client into a much less intensive type of IST. It's we have
IST. Go back to the
IST, Installment Sale Trust.
Okay.
Using 453, we have a group that's called Iron Gate Holding, and Iron Gate Holding takes smaller transactions. So to begin with, home sale, it's got to be more than $2 million. Because you've got 121, you have the homeowner's exemption.
Right, Section 121,
Piece,
$250,000.
the $250,000 or $500,000 exemption. And
Yeah.
in order to make the transaction make sense, it's got to have gain of more than $2 million. On a normal investment property, I would say $1 million to $1.5 million. On a business, again, $1 million to $1.5 million or greater. My cat, you want out of
Yeah, size of deals. Yeah.
Yeah. So we have Iron Gate Holding, and in Iron Gate Holding, we put the smaller transactions. And in Iron Gate Holding, all we do is we say, you have a contract for X number of years, and we're going to pay you principal and interest, or interest only, and then pay you your principal at the end of that period. And there's no, we just make a commitment to make those payments. In a normal installment sale trust, IST, what I have is I have the ability to disperse money to you, the seller, and to me for my fees, but I have to have you, the seller's concurrence on those distributions.
Okay.
That's control in a normal IST. I have either bank accounts or arrangements with the investment advisors such that no money can be dispersed on my say-so alone. So I can't do a Bernie Madoff, if you will.
Right. Yeah, there are checks and balances. Yeah.
There's checks and balances. With an Iron Gate, they give us the money, we put it into a large trust, and we make quarterly installments to them. They don't get to approve them, they just get the money.
Right.
And at the end, we pay them out. And it's we have fidelity bonds that cover us on that.
Right. So what's the time frame on an installment sale? Is it 5 years, 10 years? What is the average, or is there an average?
Well, let's talk for a moment about the benefits of an installment sale trust. The benefit is the tax that you don't pay.
Okay.
When you start receiving principal, you have to pay tax. And when you start paying tax, you start losing the benefit of the installment sale trust. It is actually the leverage. So when you in California, we're paying 20% capital gains tax. We're talking about sales of $1 million or more. You're paying 20% tax.
Right.
You're paying 3.8% in the net income investment tax, and then you're paying the state of California 12 or 13%.
Right.
You're paying 35, 36% tax, 37% tax.
Yeah.
Which means you're starting out at 63% of the way behind me. Or 37% of the way behind me. I mean, it's like us running a 100-yard dash, and I'm starting at the 60-yard, and you're starting at the 100-yard. You think I'm going to win? And the point I'm making is, as you start receiving some principal, and you can, there's nothing wrong with that. Sure. I can explain the benefits even then, but as you start receiving principal, you start losing some of that leverage. So if you don't need the principal, my suggestion is you make it for as long as you can.
And is that primarily done as an interest-only sale? And eventually you're going to get a balloon payment. So what happens with that balloon payment, and how is it taxed? I mean, 5 years down the road, you've done interest only for 5 years or 10 years, and you've done a $3 million sale. Now you're going to get that balloon payment. Right.
And you're going to get taxed just the way you would have the day you made the sale. If you receive smaller payments, and let's talk about what a smaller payment is. If you receive a payment of under $500,000, you don't pay now a principal payment of under $500,000. You don't pay that extra 5% to the federal government. Okay. And instead of paying 13%, you're probably only paying 7 or 8% to the state of California. And if that payment is not $500,000, but less than $200,000, you drop the 3.8. So you're starting to chop off some of that tax if you receive some principal payment every year. That's your choice.
Right.
But then you lose the benefit of that leverage. So again, if you don't need the money, don't do it.
Right.
Go ahead.
And do you work in other states? Or are you only in California? I'm licensed in 32 states. Sorry, where do you work?
I work in all 50 states. I've done deals in Florida. I'm doing a deal right now in Texas, and those are states without any personal income tax.
Right. Yeah.
So people see the benefit without even the state income tax being part of the equation. But California, there are 6 or 7 states that their combined tax is over 30%.
Yeah.
New York, New Jersey, Hawaii, they're pretty pricey. There's also, I just wanted to mention, Herb, there's some people who believe that. So let me tell you what it costs you to do an installment sale trust.
Yeah.
First of all, it's $10,000 for the setup. Okay, that's a one-time charge. And then there's the ongoing trustee fee, which, as I mentioned before, starts at 1%. It's 0.75% at $2 million. It's 0.5% at $4 million, and at $5 million it drops down to 0.25%. Okay. So it drops down pretty rapidly. So there's one other cost to an installment sale trust, and that's a sharing in the increase in value of the principal. So we set up a trust. Let's say it's $3 million. Mm-hmm. And you select your investment advisor. And let's say your investment advisor is pretty good. And he says, I can pretty much guarantee you 8.5% ongoing. Well, if my costs, are, let's say 40 basis points. Okay, so 8.5 less 40 basis points gets us down to 8.10. If I paid you, let's say 7.75, just a little safety valve there, or 7.5%,
Sure.
then the principal, ideally, if this investment advisor is correct, the principal is going to grow.
Sure.
And it's going to grow over the next 10 years. Okay. We charge, because if the trust is there simply for you, the seller's benefit, the IRS kind of looks sideways at it. And so we take a percentage of the principal growth. That percentage is 10%.
Oh, okay.
So let's say your principal of $3 million grows to $4 million. Okay. That extra million, we're going to take 1% of it. We're going to take $100,000. You're going to have $900,000. You spread that 10% over the 10 years. It's 1/4%, maybe 0.5% more.
Sure.
But what it does is it ensures that the IRS will not look at this and say, listen, the only person who's really benefiting of this installment sale trust is you, the seller. No. I'm benefiting from it as well. And because I'm benefiting from it, it has a real business purpose.
And the advisor is also earning money managing the money, correct?
That's right.
So you've got a couple of entities here. This sure sounds like something that you cannot stumble into. And I mean, I hear you when you say, give us 2 months to set it up, right? Come to us long in advance. I can't tell you how many times I get a call from someone. I'm on day 37 of my 1031 exchange, right? And they haven't found a replacement property. So I can't imagine someone coming to you 3 weeks before a sale and saying, hey, I think I want to do an installment sale. What's your response to them?
Well, I mean, we can do it. We definitely get, as I said, it takes me about 2 weeks to set everything up. But again, how much attention does the seller have to his transaction versus checking out what an installment sale trust can do for them? So
right. It's an education. There's an education piece here that's pretty high.
Yeah, they have to get comfortable with me, comfortable with what we're doing. So it takes a little while.
Wow. It's super interesting. I have not been involved in installment sales. And so when we had our first conversation, it was super interesting to me. And that's why I really wanted to have you on the show, because this is one more tool in the sandbox that people have when they're selling big portions of stock or a business or real estate, et cetera, et cetera. So it's another option for them. And I like presenting those options to my audience.
Herb, one thing we haven't mentioned that I'd like to throw in here is, even in a 1031, not all 1031s close. What's the percent that that fail?
Yeah, there's a good amount. I mean, I would say probably, in my experience watching, about 15%, but that's
So that's 15% that fail. And there's also another probably 20% that don't invest all the money, and they have to pay tax on some of the money. So if you put a clause into your contract a clause that I can give you into your contract with your accommodator, it says any money that is not redeployed in a 1031 goes to an IST, then you don't have to pay tax on that money as well.
Wow. There's another step right there.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of options here. So it's a great opportunity for people to learn that they're not just not stuck, but that an exchange is not their only option.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's great. It's great. So whenever I do a show with someone, I always like to have the boxers or briefs conversation, right? And so a lot of my conversation, a lot of time is, where did you come from? Where did you grow up?
Oh boy, I have what I call a very checkered past.
Oh, okay. This will be fun.
It starts with mom and dad, and of course, it always starts with mom and dad. But my mom was Peruvian, and
really?
my dad was an American aviator who went down to South America to extract rubber during World War II.
Wow!
And so they met in Lima, Peru, got engaged in New York, and married in Shanghai, China. I'm doing the shortcut here.
Wow.
I was conceived in Beijing, China, and born in Lima, Peru. Lived there till I was 1.5. Came to California and lived till I was 11, and back down to Peru. We went, and I spent my junior high school and high school years there. Came back here for college and have been here basically ever since.
So have you been back to visit? I climbed Machu Picchu with my brother a handful of years ago. We took the short route. We didn't start at the bottom of the mountain.
But you did wind up Picchu, huh?
Yep, did wind up Picchu.
Yeah. I did that with my sons in 2004. Yeah,
that's awesome. That's awesome. So what do you find, since you've been in both, lived in Peru, lived here? Where do you vacation?
All over the world. I love to travel all over the world. I was in Spain and Portugal earlier this year. 2 years ago, I was in Israel, traveling to Jerusalem on October 7th.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
A little bit of an adventure, but
yeah, sure.
I survived.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Wow. Well, you have a really interesting life, and you do really interesting work. So I am grateful that you've taken the time to come on my show, and I look forward to talking to you again. I look forward to the opportunity. If someone says, I want to learn about an installment sale, I'm going to give you a call, and I'm going to connect them straight up with you.
Yeah. Well, also mention to everyone you talk to about 1031s. Do you want the option of being able to take the rest of your money, or all of your money if it fails, and keep from having to pay tax on it?
Right. There's an option.
Very simple. Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate your time. And that's a wrap, folks. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more raw, real financial talk in the Sandbox.